Alternative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
What is going on, y'all? How's everybody doing today? That wasn't the that wasn't the opening that I was planning on, but here we are. So for years, as we all know, for years, we Americans were told that Anthony Fauci was the one. We were told that we should trust him and stop questioning the official narrative. But now we have his diaries and his own words, and they confirm what we all knew all along. I and many others tried to tell you, and here we are. And it's going to be interesting to see how he and his minions spin this. But welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God is the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Tuesday, July 28th. Where has the time gone? In the year of our Lord 2026. And we have, as usual, a ton of stuff to get into. And as I was preparing for the show, and I kept going back over and thinking about everything that happened during that time, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to talk about that. Oh yeah, I got to talk about this. And so I have a ton of stuff that I want to try and work in. I don't know that we're going to, but before we get into everything, please do all the algorithm stuff. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We would love to hear from you. Help us to deal with this chokehold that the algorithm has got us in. The big tech tyrants they still don't like us. They still don't want to help us out. So we need you guys to help us out and help us get the word out. Every like, every click, every comment, every share, all of it matters. And so we also have the Mission Ready Men individual channel, same show, just a different route to access it. So if you're not subscribed over there, we would really appreciate it if you would do us the honor and subscribe over there as well. All right. As we all know, the biggest story so far over the past couple of days is Saint Fauci the Fraudulent, as I have been calling him for years. His diary was released, or pages from his diary was released by Senator Rand Paul. And this guy, I mean, I've been talking about this since COVID happened. This guy is a narcissist, unlike many others. I mean, he would give Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, and just pick one. And yes, I know Donald Trump, you have to be have some kind of narcissistic tendencies to be president of the United States. It just goes with the territory. But Tony Fauci is on a whole other level. And while America was terrified of the virus, and he was telling us how it was 10 times deadlier than the flu and whatnot, he was busy just reveling in his newfound fame. And it is absolutely insane. But let's take a look at some of his greatest hits. And this is from February of 2020, I believe.
COVID-19 compared to other previous health situations, SARS, H1N1, things like that?
Sure, sir. Thank you for the question. Well, SARS was also a coronavirus in 2002. It infected 8,000 people, and it killed about 775. It had a mortality of about 9 to 10%. So that's only 8,000 people. In about a year, in the 2.5 months that we've had this coronavirus, as you know, we now have multiples of that. So it clearly is not as lethal, and I'll get to the lethality in a moment, but it certainly spreads better. Probably for the practical understanding of the American people, the seasonal flu that we deal with every year has a mortality of 0.1%. The stated mortality overall of this, when you look at all the data, including China, is about 3%. It first started off as 2 and now 3. I think if you count all the cases of minimally symptomatic or asymptomatic infection, that probably brings the mortality rate down to somewhere around 1%, which means it is 10 times more lethal than the seasonal flu. I think that's something that people can get their arms around and understand.
Now, actually, you know what? Let me put this back up. It's probably a little bit difficult to see, but down here, these are his notes from his diary. And down here, it says that the case fatality rate is more like 0.2 to 0.3% rather than 2%. This guy, he was lying. He was lying like a rug, like it was his job. And I can't believe how many allegedly smart people, and I said this then, how many allegedly smart people fell for this. And when you look at, and I'm not going to have time to put up every screenshot of every email and every diary entry, but when you look at it, and I encourage you to look at it, even if you don't read the whole thing, which I've bookmarked the whole thing, but even if you just look at some of the compilations, which we will go through here in a little bit, of one of them, the level of narcissism and just the outright lies that he told is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. He told Sean Hannity and others, and like he said in this hearing, that it was 10 or more times more deadly than the seasonal flu. And then in his entry, as we saw, he said that it was along the same lines as a seasonal flu. This guy was bragging. Let me see if I have that one. He was bragging in his diary anyway, that he that he got everything, that he was responsible for getting everything locked down. But on TV, he was telling a completely different story. Let's check this out. This is him with Badia Unger Sargon before she went to News Nation. She was at the Hill. Check this out.
I wonder if you would recommend locking down schools if you had to do it all over again.
Well, you know, again, it's first of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down. You're asking me questions. You're talking about the CDC is the public health agency that uses their epidemiologists and their science-based approach to make recommendations.
I wonder if you would.
So he didn't recommend locking anything down, allegedly. We'll take a look at this. This is his an entry from his diary, and I know it's kind of tough to see, but I'm going to read some of it to you. It's the highlighted versions, and again, this is all online. Rand Paul released all of it, and this one says, "I spoke with Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York City, and convinced him, based on what I was saying publicly in my conversation tonight, to close New York City schools." And he says he had already decided based on what he was saying on TV. He went on to tell him that he should close the bars and restaurants in New York City. And he says he had a similar call with Ann O'Leary, the chief of staff of Gavin Newsom. And based on his TV appearances, Newsom decided to close the schools in California, as well as the bars and restaurants. But he just told Badia that he didn't recommend any of that. And then here on March 16th, he's talking about the 15-day mitigation strategy. He tells people to self-isolate, not to congregate, stay away from bars, restaurants, blah, blah, blah. And then, which is not highlighted, but I took note of this because I know people who went through this. No visitors to nursing homes. If a family member is sick, others in family should take extra precautions, only necessary travel, telework as much as possible. I know at least 2 people who could not visit their loved ones who were in nursing homes. And I know one of them, their father died in a nursing home, and they couldn't lay him to rest for months. And this was right when George Floyd had 4 funerals. And this person couldn't lay their father to rest. And this was all because of St. Fauci, the fraudulent. The level of evil that this shows it's just off the charts. Absolutely off the charts. And it was all done in service to his ego. Now, I haven't read every page of this, obviously. I mean, it's, I want to say 400 and something pages of diary entries. So obviously I haven't gotten through all of that. But from what has been released and what has been publicly reported so far, this guy was high on his own supply. And he reveled in the ability that he had because people trusted him for some reason. He reveled in his ability to manipulate everybody. Meanwhile, he wasn't subject to any of his own recommendations. Here's one. this is one of his entries. I have evolved into something that would have been unimaginable to me just a few years ago. There are some positive aspects to it. However, for the most part, I feel like it is no longer me. I am now probably one of the most recognizable faces in the world. Millions of people idolize me. I cannot go out in public to restaurants or even walk through a crowd since someone immediately recognizes. I mean, he loves this. He loves this. And it's just amazing to me that so many, as I said before, so many allegedly smart people fell for it. Absolutely fell for it. He was palling around with Jake Tapper. I don't know if I have a screenshot of his yeah, I don't think I have a screenshot of his. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at this one. As this is him actually on Jake Tapper's show. And you may not be able to see it, but I'll read the screenshots. This is from, I think, Western Lensman, who is a great follow if you're looking to see these clips and compilations and stuff like that. And he's got this interview with Jake Tapper, and then he's got overlaid diary entries talking about Jake Tapper.
Ideological rigidity, I think. There's no reason not to get vaccinated. Why are we having red states?
We're going to get to that in a second, but let's continue.
And places in the South that are very highly ideological in one way, not wanting to get vaccinations. Vaccinations have nothing to do with politics. It's a public health issue. It doesn't matter who you are. The virus doesn't know whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. For sure, we know that. And yet there is that divide of people wanting to get vaccinated and not wanting to get vaccinated, which is really unfortunate because it's losing lives.
The conservative political conference, CPAC.
Now, on this overlay, this is two of his entries. He had dinner with Jake Tapper over at Jake Tapper and Jen Tapper's house in D.C. Terrific couple, friendship building. And then another one, he had a phone call with Jake Tapper. Jake wanted to make sure the interview did not cause me any problems. This dude. Now, I said I was going to get to his vaccination nonsense. Now, I'm going to talk about my own issue with the vaccinations here later on, but this is an interview that RFK Jr. did with Laura Ingraham the other day, talking about this, and he's talking about a revelation from the diaries. But just check this out.
Americans want to know, a lot of them, is there going to be any accountability for trillions of dollars lost, children's education destroyed, and public health industry reputation shattered?
Yeah, and millions of people injured. You know, he lied about masks, he lied about social distancing, he lied about the transmission, he lied about natural immunity, he lied about the capacity, as you just said, of the vaccine to prevent infection, to prevent it. He got vaccinated, a very, very public press conference in January of 2020. And then 5 months later, he had, and this is the first time that we knew this from the diary, he had a pulmonary infarction, which is one of the adverse events that NIH, CDC, and FDA said are expected from the vaccine. He never told anybody. He got treated for it privately by the best doctors in America. At the same time, he was telling everybody that that was not an adverse event.
But the vaccines were perfectly safe. These experimental jabs were perfectly safe. Everybody should get it, from infants all the way up to the elderly. And especially the infants and elderly, according to him. And now, come to find out, he had one of these adverse reactions that everybody said when we were talking about all the VAERS entries. Everybody said, well, it's no big deal. That doesn't happen. Even though we watched people pass out as they were getting their vaccines. And so many people talking about all of the vaccine injuries. The Army kicked out a soldier because they forced her to get the jab. She had an adverse reaction, and then they kicked her out because she couldn't perform her duties, and then didn't bother to support her afterwards. I think that has since been reversed. But I mean, these stories were popping up and they would just tell us, isolated incident, to be expected, no big deal, they're safe. Meanwhile, the main guy who's telling everybody to get this poison injected into their bodies suffers one of these adverse reactions, and he says absolutely nothing. These people, man, it's going to be interesting to see. Fauci is set to testify in a Senate hearing tomorrow. And I know that Rand Paul is just salivating, waiting to get his hands, metaphorically speaking, on Anthony Fauci. Because all he has to do is say one thing that contradicts what's in these diaries, and he's going down for perjury. And then if he denies what's in the diaries, was he lying then, or is he lying now? Just reading some of this stuff and seeing how high on his own supply he was, how much he loved the limelight. It really is a chef's kiss watching all of this come crashing down around him. Now, I talked about how I had my own story about this, and I've been talking about this COVID nonsense and the way that they just used this alleged emergency to infringe on everybody's rights. And nothing about it added up at the time. And obviously, because the main guy has been lying all of this time, it turns out we were right. It turns out we were right. We tried to tell you. Now, when all of this was going on, I did, even though I was railing against the vaccine and touting natural immunity and everything else, I came down with COVID. And as is COVID is wont to do, it triggered some other issues. And I was sick for a while. And people actually told me, because I was against the vaccine. I was anti-jab. People actually told me that when I got sick and was in the hospital and dealing with all of the complications, that I deserved it. I deserved to get sick. I deserved to die. People actually said that. People who I thought were friends, or at least not enemies. And it just goes to show how brainwashed, and again, allegedly smart people. It just goes to show how brainwashed people got. And here's the thing. I didn't get the jab. I got sick. God healed me. I got COVID once. If my wife got COVID, she was asymptomatic and we're both fine. Everyone who was on me and telling me I deserved to die and telling me that I was irresponsible and everything else, I deserved it. They all got it multiple times after having been jabbed. I got it once. Everyone I know who is a pure blood, who didn't get jabbed, got it once. Once. And I know some people who didn't want to get it, but because of their jobs, they were forced into it and felt like they had no choice and they got it. And they are now dealing with health issues as a result of the jab. Health issues that had no foundation up to that point, that there was no indication that these things were going to come on prior to getting that jab. Now, I do not expect anyone to apologize. I will pray for you, but I don't expect any apologies. But if anyone is feeling reflective now that these diaries are out and all this information is out, everything that we suspected has now come to fruition, I am open. I am open. I will accept the apologies. No hard feelings whatsoever. None whatsoever. Just the data that backs up everything that we were saying. And not to mention, all of this backs up what was in RFK's book that he wrote years ago about this, but I digress. But until those apologies start rolling in, thanks for watching. But the Emperor's Diary is now public, it's now out there. And it turns out that the Emperor not only had no clothes, but he was just worried about how good he would look on CNN. And I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth it. Somehow, I don't think it was. And I am so looking forward to the hearing tomorrow. I will be, well, I work overnight, so it'll probably be, I'll have to watch a replay of it, but I am so looking forward to it. I cannot wait to see what Rand Paul does, because there was one of their exchanges I know Rand Paul is looking to revisit. And that's this one right here.
Knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
Microphone.
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not
qualified staff that reported to him and reported to people who reported to him, but details.
Being gain of function.
When
Let me
you
finish.
take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans,
Right.
you're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay?
Oh, I hope that they replay that in the hearing tomorrow. And I hope that Rand Paul has something to say about it, because that is just going to be too juicy to not to not address that. And they had several exchanges over several hearings. It's all going to be entertaining, and I cannot wait. All right. I could go on. I have so many other things we could play, but I think we got that covered for the time being. I'm sure we'll be talking about it, especially after the hearing tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be talking about it for the next couple of shows in some way or another. But before we move on, I do want to get a word in from our sponsor for today's show, and our sponsor today is Patriot Mobile. Who you do business with absolutely matters. And that's why we switched to Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They support causes that we care about: pro-life, pro-family, and protecting our freedom. So right now, you can get a free month of service when you go to Patriot Mobile and use promo code Jackson, patriotmobile.com/Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Jackson. Stop funding companies that fight against your values and do business with a company that fights for your values. Switch to patriotmobile.com today. All right, so I want to talk about this, because this is another chef's kiss. And President Trump, I know we talked about it before, but I want to talk about it a little bit again, because the reaction to it was just amazing. And let's just revisit a little bit of it, and we'll go from there.
She's a young, attractive woman. She never smiles. I said, Kaitlan, do you ever smile? Smile. You have a nice position. You're at CNN Fake News. You should be a happy person. So smile, Kaitlan, just smile. But we attack, and I thought Kaitlan had really made it big with a major new sponsorship, but then I informed her that it wasn't her on the Bud Light can. It was Dylan Mulvaney. I want to personally congratulate.
And of course, everyone lost their minds. And President Trump, he posted the image of Kaitlan Collins' face superimposed on Dylan Mulvaney's body in that Bud Light commercial, which I thought was hilarious. But of course, like I said, they lost their minds. And the left-wing lunatics on X just, it was like the end of the world. It was like the end of the world. Which brought to mind something that should have been obvious to everyone, but it just brings it to the forefront. If trans women, and I use that in air quotes, that's their term, not mine, but if trans women are women, and there's no qualification to it, why is comparing a biological woman to a trans woman, and I hate using those qualifiers, but you get my point, why is that treated like a hate crime? What's the problem? They say they scream at the top of their lungs, and we've seen we've seen all of the dudes cosplaying as women talking about it's ma'am, and talking yelling and screaming, don't misgender me and all this. If trans women are women, why is it bigotry to suggest that a biological woman looks like one of these trans units? Because if it's true, if what they believe really is true and trans women really are women, they're not. But for the purposes of this discussion, if trans women really are women, how is recognizing the resemblance between a trans unit and a biological woman, a woman, how is that offensive? Unless, and this is where I come down, they really don't believe it. They don't believe it. Because it's just not true, obviously. And if they don't believe it, then the comparison kind of stings a little bit because everybody knows the difference. Everybody knows the difference. And the fact that the left melted down the way they did over this just shows that they were pissed off that Trump said the quiet part out loud and called out, gave voice to their hypocrisy. We've all known this. This isn't a new revelation by any means, but the fact that he called it out at their dinner, that hurt them. It had to, because if they just ignored it, then it wouldn't have been a thing. If they had just ignored it, we wouldn't be talking about it. I mentioned it because it was a funny joke, but I wouldn't be talking about it again. But of course they melted down, and here we are. And I don't know. I mean, they do kind of look like they could be brother and sister. It looks like it to me. And to be honest, Kaitlan, Dylan Mulvaney obviously does not look like a woman. So Kaitlan Collins kind of looks a little masculine, if you ask me. But I don't know. What do you think? I think it is absolutely hilarious. Here's another one, just for grins. I mean, this is obviously a dude pretending to be a girl. And this is a little bit better picture of her than the previous one, but still. Anyway, oh boy. But Dylan Mulvaney actually responded, and I'm not going to play the whole thing. It's nearly 4 minutes of his rambling. But I want to just point out the narcissism of this dude. And that seems to be a recurring theme with these leftists, which is kind of interesting. But let's check this out.
4 times on Friday night.
It wasn't 4 times. Again, but his narcissism is leading him to believe that, or to try to lead us to believe that. I don't know.
I couldn't respond right away because yesterday I had tickets to see Meg Stalter and O'Mary, but now I think I'd like to say a little something. Firstly, I would like to congratulate CNN's Kaitlan Collins on her award and tell her that I'm incredibly honored to be compared to her in any way, and I hope that she keeps doing all the great work. Now, the president also brought up a video I did over 3 years ago, and mind you, I've been kind of flying under the radar, keeping up a pretty low profile, just like doing my little musical.
Because you lost billions of dollars for Bud Light.
Singing, dancing, and yet I am still his topic of conversation all these years later.
No, you're not. You were the subject of a joke. You were not a topic of conversation. But the narcissism, the ego of these people leads him to believe that. And he thinks that the people who follow him or admire him or whatever are going to believe the same thing because they probably didn't watch President Trump's speech. But anyway, let's continue.
And it seems to me that I might be like the one that got away for these men. Like I am permanently burned into their retinas. I am microchipped into their minds. And
no, you're not. No, you're not. You are the subject of ridicule and the subject of laughter because you lost an iconic company, billions, tens of billions of dollars in market cap. But you can keep that as a badge of honor if you want, I guess.
When I first heard that the president put me on his diss track, I was like, well, that's not good. But no.
Anyway, I'm tired of that. You get the idea. You get the idea. He thinks he's all that, and he thinks that President Trump talking about him, mentioning him for a minute or two in a speech that was an hour long is somehow makes him relevant or elevates him in some way. His entire response centered around how important he still thinks he is, when it was really about Kaitlan Collins. And if he thinks that somebody putting him on their diss track, as he said, if he thinks that being mentioned by people who don't like him is somehow some validation of his existence, of his worth, then every time somebody says something negative about him, that's a promotion. That's convenient. And I would not be the least bit surprised. He said in that thing he had been keeping a low profile. I would not be the least bit surprised, not the least bit surprised, if we start seeing more of this fool. Unfortunately. But getting back to the actual point here, the left was all up in arms that the president compared an actual woman to a dude pretending to be one, and then got indignant. So I need some clarification. Are trans women women or not? I need clarification from them. I know that trans women are not women. I know that so-called trans women are just mentally ill dudes cosplaying at being women. But the left needs to clarify their position because if trans women are women as far as they're concerned, then why are they upset? They shouldn't be upset. It should have been a non-issue. It should have been an absolute non-issue. Which tells me that they actually see it as the insult that it was meant to be. Oh boy. Anyway, let's move on. I got to get that dude off my screen. Let's talk about compatibility. And I'm just looking at some of these, some of the chats here. Thank you all for being here in the chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you to the moderators who are in chat for holding it down and keeping everything in order. I appreciate you. Thank you all for being here and helping us out. These comments, whether you agree with us or not, they help us out, and we do appreciate that. But let's talk about compatibility. Recently, there have been 4 Islamic attacks. Well, 3 that we know of and 1 most likely. We had a van attack in Berlin. A guy by the name of Abdul Balut, known Islamist, was convicted of trying to join ISIS and served, I believe, 14 months in jail, or maybe it was 18. Released under alleged supervision, and then decided to run down a pride parade. And then in Paris, a knife attack. A guy who's being treated, I guess now, for some psychological issues. But after his attack, he said that Allah told him to do it. Oh my goodness, these people are insane. Now, let's before we get into the Islamism of it all, let's take a look at a reaction from one of the, I believe this was from someone who was at the parade, but this person is a member of that community. And I'm going to read to you the captions, but let's because it's in a different language, obviously. But let's take a look at this.
Diese Nachrichten zu bekommen, dass beim CSD ein Auto reingerast ist, ein Mann in einem Auto.
Wrong one. Those captions are not in English. Anyway, basically, this woman said that she hoped when she heard about this van attack against the Pride Parade that it had been a white Christian. I don't understand these people in the alphabet mafia who believe that who believe that they will be accepted by Islam. She hoped it was a white Christian because she didn't want it to be a Muslim. These gays for Palestine and it makes absolutely no sense. And I do not understand why they continue to simp for these people. Do they not realize, despite Muhammad's obvious tendencies, which is a story for another time, but despite Muhammad's tendencies, the Quran is explicit against these deviant behaviors. And they will throw you off of a building in any of these Islamic countries. So when you invite these people into your Western country, while they're demanding that you change your culture for them, why are you surprised when they randomly attack people with vans and knives? In Paris, there was another one. This dude running through the streets of Paris, slashing people with knives. Check this out.
Il y a un mec avec des couteaux. Au nom d'Allah, il... Attention! Monsieur, il est armé! Attention! Attention, il est armé! Sale gros fils de pute, va niquer ta mère! Attention! Attention! Attention!
Now, what I don't understand is why this dude was filming and yelling attention. Why he was filming and not running towards this dude to put him on the ground. I don't get it. It's like my wife was telling me about a video she saw of these Muslim dudes who were harassing a few people, and the husbands were walking in front of their wives, putting their wives between them and these Islamists who were harassing them. It boggles the mind. But eventually they did put that guy on the ground, and he was arrested almost immediately. But he stabbed 3 women. One of them was pregnant. All of them are going to recover. All of them suffered minor injuries, apparently. But he said Allah commanded him. In Toronto, there were 2 Jewish-owned bagel shops that were somebody opened fire on, and it appears to be obviously hate crime related, anti-Jewish. It could be Islamic. It could just be a result of all the anti-Jew hatred that's going around these days. And then we have the last one is the one in New York City, where a guy yelled Allahu Akbar and stabbed a Jewish man and an Asian man. I don't understand why we continue to tolerate this nonsense. Call me a bigot, call me an Islamophobe, call me whatever you want. But we used to ban cults. We used to have standards. Islam is a cult. And Islam should be treated as a cult. It should be relegated to the deepest of shadows. We should not be allowing them to purchase hundreds of acres of land and build these elaborate Islamic centers and neighborhoods where you have to be a Muslim to buy a house. That should not be allowed. It should not be allowed in this country. It should not be allowed in any Western country. And one country where it's not allowed is Poland. And this was from a few years ago, but I want to take a look at this because this is how it should be done.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you're asking me about Muslim illegal immigration, none. Not even one will come to Poland, not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked not about illegal immigrants, I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission President, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
Of course, because this is what our people are expecting from our government. That's number one. This is why our government was elected. But this is why Poland is so safe.
And Poland is the safest European country. They have a population. Well, let's do a compare and contrast, because in London, and let's just take the capital cities of these countries. In London, there are 1.3 million Muslims, which is 15% of the population in London. There are hundreds of mosques and prayer centers in London. In Paris, there are hundreds of thousands, over 1 million in the wider metro Paris area, thousands of mosques and prayer centers. In Barcelona, there are hundreds of thousands of Muslims, 300 mosques and places of worship. And in Poland, and we all know what's going on in those countries, in those cities. In Poland, the Muslim population is estimated to be 0.1 to 0.2%. That's thousands. And there are only a handful of mosques nationwide, not just in Warsaw, nationwide. And in fact, Warsaw only has one. And Poland has consistently ranked among the safest European countries because they refuse to allow an Islamic invasion. There are videos all over the internet of how nice it is to walk around in Poland because they don't tolerate it. And they can call them a racist all they want. But that's what the people voted for. And there are dozens of Pew Research studies and other studies that show how Islam doesn't accept a lot of the Western ideals that are accepted by the United States and Western countries. Homosexuality, Islam just does not accept that. Like I mentioned before, they will throw you off the roof of a building if they even suspect that you're a homosexual. I have a hard time understanding why so many of these Western countries, the United States, the UK, France. I did a story probably a year or so ago about the number of mosques that had been built in France from 1975 until I believe 2024. And France has about 2,600 mosques. They had 8 in 1975. They want to take over, and Poland is not letting them. Now, I'm not suggesting I don't want to move to Poland by any stretch of the imagination, but just where is the political will to do something about this? Why is there so much? Why is everybody so willing, especially on the left, so willing to allow this Islamic takeover of this country? How is it that the mayor of New York City is now a Muslim of the same persuasion of the hijackers that took down the Twin Towers? How is that even possible? If you had said to me 25 years ago, right after the towers fell, that in 25 years, New York City would elect a Muslim mayor, I would have looked at you like you had 6 heads. I would have said, there is absolutely no way. No way. Yet here we are, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. The West, Islam is incompatible with Western civilization on every level. On every level. It is a barbaric cult that has spread through conquest. It has spread at the end of a blade. They're doing a civilizational jihad now, where they have said that they plan to outbreed us. They are doing everything they can to get as many jihadists into offices. We see it happening in England. We see it happening in the UK, and we're seeing it happen here. I mean, like I just said, Mamdani in New York, Ugandan-born mayor, he is a jihadist just like the ones who took down the towers. And to not recognize, to not acknowledge the danger is just stupid. It goes beyond suicidal empathy. It's just moronic. And countries don't survive moronic policies like that. All right, I mentioned Mamdani, so let's go ahead and get into it. Zohran Mamdani, Muslim mayor of New York City. This is the 25th, this year will be the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. And the families of those victims have expressed their desire that Mamdani not show up to the memorial. And I do not blame them one bit. There is a change.org petition, which I signed, and I encourage you to sign it too. There are 36,463 verified signatures as of right now. I'm surprised it's only that. I'm not sure when this petition was actually created. I'll have to get into it to look, I guess. 36,000 is not where I would have expected that number to be, honestly. But on 9/11, 2,977 people lost their lives. Families lost those loved ones. And they just want one simple thing, that anniversary at Ground Zero be dignified. Unfortunately, Mamdani has made that request harder than it really should be. This really should be a no-brainer, honestly. Mamdani has a history of, well, he first and foremost, he's a Muslim. And the families of the victims understand that it was Muslims who took down the towers. It was Muslims who killed those 2,977 people. And the reason that they don't want him to show up here is simple. This is a list of the reasons why they don't want him to show up. He has refused to condemn the rallying cry, globalize the Intifada. He pals around with Imam Siraj Wahaj. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't care if I get it wrong. But he is an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. And I showed you the picture of him palling around with that guy during the campaign. Ramzi Qassam is the city's chief counsel, and he defended an Al-Qaeda terrorist who pled guilty to bomb a French oil tanker. And of course, Mahmoud Khalil, who was the anti-Israel rabble rouser at Columbia University back in 2024. He endorsed Amber Kawas, whose video I played where she talked about how America brought 9/11 on itself, and 9/11 was just a couple of people who did something, echoing Ilhan Omar. And of course, he endorsed Daraliza Avila Chevalier for Congress, who won her primary. She is a Muslim convert, and she wears a keffiyeh, and she yells from the river to the sea. She is an anti-Jew Islamic jihadist, just like him. He defended Anwar al-Awlaki. And he blamed America for making him turn to terror. There's a lot of America blaming from these people. And because of that, they do not want him at the 9/11 memorial. And I do not blame them one bit. And then there is his friendship with Hassan Piker. And Hassan Piker, he is a guy that has, he said that Mao Zedong was one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen, or something along those lines. And he actually said at one point, well, this is well, it was a picture of him and Hassan Piker, but this is Hassan Piker now. And this picture right here, this New York Times headline, U.S. attacked, hijacked jets, destroyed Twin Towers, and hit Pentagon in Day of Terror. He has this framed in his background in his podcast studio. And this is a reason, he recently did this. And this is him, and there is the framed headline right there. Now, this is him. This is him not too long ago when he said what he said.
This guy has the understanding of foreign policy of like a 12-year-old. What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this dude? Didn't he go to war and like literally lose his eye because some mujahideen, a brave fucking soldier, fucked his eye hole with their dick? Isn't that how he lost his fucking dumbass eye? Because he got his fucking eye hole fucked? America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it. This guy...
He was talking about Dan Crenshaw. I am absolutely no friend, no fan of Dan Crenshaw, but wow. He's had a bit of a glow up since this, obviously, but wow. How he still has a platform is absolutely beyond me. But yet he is now one of the left's most influential surrogates. He campaigned with Mamdani. He campaigned with a lot of these. He campaigned with a lot of these left-wing DSA lunatics. This is him with Mamdani not too long ago too. It may be tough to see, but this is Hassan Piker, Zohran Mamdani. I think this was during the campaign. So yeah, the families of the 9/11 victims do not want him at the memorial. And Mamdani is doubling down and said this.
A number of people who are survivors of 9/11 are calling on you not to go to 9/11 memorial services. I wonder how you feel about the fact that they're trying to keep you away.
I will proudly honor the families, the survivors, the first responders forever impacted by that horrific terror attack by standing alongside them at this year's 9/11 commemoration, reaffirming that we will never forget the solemn day felt by all of us who call this city home, and frankly, by all of us who call this country home.
Takia. One word, Takia. He is lying to advance the cause of Islam. And as the mayor of New York City, I will say that he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because I think he should err on the side of not going. He's going to get flack for it either way. But I think the flack for going and disrespecting those families will be greater than if he chooses to sit down. Because if he chooses not to go, he can say, hey, look, they didn't want me to go. I was respecting their wishes. And then he can come back later and say, maybe I should have gone. Maybe in hindsight, it wasn't a good idea. But they didn't want me to go, so I didn't go. But he's going anyway. He's going anyway because he sees the 9/11 hijackers and the Twin Towers coming down as a victory for jihad. He sees it as a victory for jihad, and he sees going to this memorial as a way to give a bouquet of middle fingers to the families of those victims. I don't care what he says. I don't care what anybody who supports him says. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. The only thing that can convince me that nothing can convince me that he is not. Nothing. I will pray for him that he converts to Christianity and accepts Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. But even if he does that, that doesn't negate the sentiment that he has right now. Everything about him screams jihadist. So if you can come up with a compelling reason as to why he's not, I'm all ears. But his response to grieving families on a solemn occasion like this, to say, yeah, I hear you, but I'm going anyway. That's that is the ultimate disrespect. The ultimate disrespect. The anniversary of this should be about never forgetting. The fact that this guy is mayor means that a lot of people forgot. Maybe him showing up will be just a reminder that some people need. I don't know. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to talk about this real quick. Iran, they released this propaganda video basically titled How and Where to Kill Melania Trump. And it maps her alleged motorcade route to various shopping venues, Bergdorf Goodman, Saks, suggests that they contaminate her clothes with VX nerve agent, actually names some of her stylists that may be vulnerable to some bribery. I mean, it's highly unlikely that they could ever pull it off. It's obviously a propaganda tool, but it's going to inspire somebody to try and do something. We've seen it happen too many times already. We've seen it happen too many times already, and we have no idea how many attacks, how many attempts have been thwarted by Secret Service that didn't get publicized because they weren't in the public eye. There were a number of attempts on Barack Obama's life, or a number of plots anyway, that were thwarted. But because it never got to the point where it played out in public, we just never heard about it. And so, and Barron Trump was also targeted in this propaganda video. They have full-time Secret Service details. I'm not sure that this was a real operational threat, but it is something to be taken seriously. It is something to be taken very seriously. And taking it seriously, to me, means absolutely leveling Iran. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Drop the whole truckload, everything, level it. Find every leader that you possibly can, bomb their hideouts, send DebGru and assassinate them, send Delta Force, get a joint operation with Mossad, whatever CIA operatives are in the region, whatever we got to do, take them out. Enough is enough. Should have been done a long time ago. But threaten your wife and child, that should be all bets are off. Even if it's not an operational threat, it's going to inspire somebody to do something. That should be the end of the discussion as far as I'm concerned. Do not let this fester. But of course, it probably won't happen that way, unfortunately. And again, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not the president of the United States. So I can say this. Maybe there's things I don't know. Well, obviously there's things I don't know. I don't know what other considerations there could possibly be to restrain someone to this degree after a threat like that. But come on, this has gone on long enough. All right. One last thing, since we have a little bit of time. And it's just a quick follow-up to something we talked about last week. And we talked about Sophie Cunningham and how she doubled down on her stance against men and women's sports. She said, I said what I said. And I said then, after that video, I said, I hope we're not coming back here in a week or so and having her walk back those statements. Well, I'm happy to report that she didn't, but it wouldn't surprise me the least bit if the team tried and she said no. So the team the Indiana Fever put out this statement. And it's probably going to be tough to read, but so I'm just going to read it to you. But it says, our players are thoughtful adults with their own perspectives and voices, and those views are their own. We are committed to welcoming fans from every background and treating everyone with respect. And that's what guides us as an organization. That's fine. But they're clearly trying to distance themselves from what Sophie Cunningham said. And I'd like to think that they went to her and asked her to walk it back, and she said, kick rocks, I'm not doing it. What she said is obviously true. And why they felt the need to clarify like that, just it makes no sense. And it just proves the point that the woke mind virus has infected pretty much everything. And I mean, the WNBA shouldn't even exist, honestly. So if they think that issuing this statement is somehow going to save them, I don't know what the thought process was, honestly. But here we are. So I'm proud of Sophie Cunningham. I'm glad she didn't walk it back. But of course, the Indiana Fever, they're going to do what they do. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here. Thank you all for being in the chat. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you to the moderators for holding it down in the chat room. I appreciate you as well. But I am Big E, and you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch our great lineup. I'm not sure when the guys are going to be back. Sackhead Sean, Jersey Joe, Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein. I'm not sure what the timeline is at this point, but they will be back at some point. But tonight, in about a half an hour, we have BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. The saloon is open. He will be on tonight, and he is on every Tuesday and Thursday, right after, about a half an hour after us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So that is going to do it for this briefing. We are not here to just yammer into the ether. We are here to equip Christian men and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if anything that we said here tonight resonated with you, please don't just watch or listen, but share it. Share it with whoever you want. Share it with another guy and bring them into the fight. That would be much appreciated. But we want everyone to hear the message. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, hit Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs we have there about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And remember, and also when you're there, check out the SHR Media Shop and check out the merch from all the guys' shows and support independent journalism and commentary. We would really appreciate that. But remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.